Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this new session of our Catch&Do tank about AI. And the question today is what AI can really do for you. For the people who already know the Catch&Do tank, you know the concept. It's a webinar, it's recorded, so you will have access to the recorded version later. It will be ready in 1 hour on LinkedIn, and I say hello to the people who are looking at this video on LinkedIn right now. But it will also be available from the Blue Morpho website. So again, this is an interactive webinar. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. We like hard questions, and Jacob is ready to receive any question today. We have no fear, so you can shoot your hardest question. And of course, we can take the questions if you want to react live. We can take the questions live, but we also have a Q&A at the end, so don't hesitate. I'm Régis Samla, I'm CTO of Blue Morpho, and today I have the pleasure to host this webinar with Jacob Decker, who you are shop floor digitalization and lean administration at FESTO. So thank you very much, Jacob, for being with us today. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So a few words about Blue Morpho. At Blue Morpho, our motivation is to deliver disruption for a positive impact. So we are a partner of leading organization, and we perform technology scouting and innovation sourcing. We are experts in data and deep tech, and we deliver new technologies, business models, and new ventures. And you have a list below of our beloved customers. This webinar is sponsored by DRH², so thank you to this initiative for supporting this activity. DRH², as you know, is a European project, is supported by the European Commission, and European Commission is investing in robotics from 2021 to 2027. The Horizon Europe Framework Program on Artificial Intelligence and Robotics covers 15 billion euros. So we are really today at the core of this topic. And the mission of DRH² is to make advanced robotics solutions more affordable. And we want to maximize productivity and optimize agility for European SMEs and mid-caps. And we do that thanks to a very strong network of the DRH, that's hence the name DRH². We have today 95, we started with 37 DRH, we are today 95, and the call is still open. So if you are a digital innovation hub and that you want to be part of a very strong network, the call is still open, and you can, there's plenty of room for you. So here you have a list of all the partners involved. And we had the 1st of July was the first day, the first convention of the network in Rotterdam. So we like to start these sessions with a quick question. So I will launch a poll right now, and I would like to ask to the people in the room, what do they think? What keeps Jacob Decker up at night? So while the people are answering, so I want to welcome you, Jacob. Thank you for being with us today. We want to, maybe we can start a little bit about you, and we would like to understand well, who you are and what you do. So could you explain a little bit about your title? What is it? What is hiding exactly behind the title? And I would like the people to reply to the poll. Now people are starting to answer.
Yeah, my official title at the moment is Project Lead for AI and Innovation. Okay. But everything that you just mentioned makes totally sense, since I was responsible for these kind of topics in our own factory in the technology plant in Scharnhausen. And so this is also where I originated. So I was responsible for the innovation management in the plant in Scharnhausen. And my responsibility was to build up a team to do innovation management for this very new plant that was just built in 2014. We wanted to not only have a modern state-of-the-art plant, but also keep on bringing in new technology, disruptive technology, and also external partners to always have the latest methods and technology to optimize our administrative and operational processes.
Mm.
And
in fact,
during
this started about 5 years ago, right?
Yeah,
2014,
6 years. It's
6 years. Okay.
6 years now, and AI then also, as it is a disruptive technology, became part of my daily work. And this story started approximately 5 years ago. We started working with AI, trying AI, and at our own machines. And now, so since last year, I'm now responsible for the project lead of AI projects, not only internally, but also applying the knowledge that we acquired towards external.
Yes, indeed, your mission has evolved. At the beginning, you were centric around FESTO, the FESTO factories, and now your mission has evolved, and you are kind of offering this competency to the customers of FESTO, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And so let's talk a little bit about how your experience in the implementation of AI at FESTO. So first it was about innovation, but then you focused more on artificial intelligence. So when you started with AI 6 years ago, what were the difficulties that you encountered? Could you explain a little bit the first problems that you have found?
Yeah. The first requirement in order to start with AI is to max out all the traditional optimization methods. Because if you have a machine where the top error is that you have missing material or missing personnel at the machine, or maybe operating errors, then it doesn't make sense to start with AI. So at FESTO, we have a great operational excellence team, which makes sure that we apply all those kind of traditional methods to improve the machine, the overall equipment efficiency. And so this was one of the topics that we focused very much on. And I would recommend this to everyone to reach a certain level of operational excellence before starting with AI.
Yeah.
Then the next issue was to identify and prioritize machines, because especially at the very beginning, it's kind of slower than you'd hope to or expect to. You need to create the whole network architecture so that you are able to access data and to then analyze data either on edge or on-prem or in the cloud. But nevertheless, you need to create somehow an architecture to access the data. And then when you have data, you need to find the right methodology or technology to analyze the data. There are different approaches, purely data-driven, or also very focused on specific components. And this is what we tried, where we learned a lot, where we also failed at the beginning. And with this knowledge, now we managed to apply, not only apply AI, but also to create our own software solution that we can now use internally and externally.
Mm. So there's also already a question from the audience, so thank you for being so reactive. The first question is related to how do you find certain disruptive technologies and applications for them. There's a second part of the question is how do you improve this technology readiness level? So maybe we can answer just the first section and we save the second one for the end of the show. How do you find the disruptive technologies and applications?
Yeah, this is an excellent question, because the approach on how to get innovation into a company is, especially into the factory, is a very crucial one. And in the innovation management, we developed an approach which also takes care of the people, because without the people, without change management, if you want to call it like that, there's can you really do. So and again, this is also kind of a long process. We started, our main goal was to change the culture a little bit, to have an open-minded, to have open-minded colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
And we did this with including external partners, outside in. We needed to acknowledge that we are not the best in everything. There are other partners, other companies that are much better in than we are in certain topics. And especially working with startups was a game changer, I think, for many of our colleagues. They have different approaches, different methods, and of course, also a different speed than we as a big company have it. So what I did is I looked for the pain points in the production. I asked my colleagues, what is your pain point? What is your problem? I identified a technology or startup who was able to solve this problem, and then very quickly built a prototype. So we had a very fast spinning agile process in which we were able to generate a functional prototype, which then allowed us to measure the value of this project, at least to get an idea. And with this idea, then we were able to start and roll out. And this was the same for AI.
You just mentioned a very important point. In the question was phrased in a way, how do you find disruptive technologies and applications for them? It's just as if we start from the technology, but you started from the pain points. You started to interview your customers. So this is really the key. Do not push the technology, but find a traction and find the right technology to answer a given problem.
Yeah, sorry, I got a little bit off track. So to finalize the answer, so we start from the pain point, but we also had a vision for the factory, how it should look like in 5 years.
Yeah,
and together with these, from top down and bottom up view, we were then able to define topics per year. So every year at the beginning of the year, we had a strategy workshop where we defined several. So we had 10 main technology focuses, for instance, cybersecurity, AI, horizontal and vertical connection, and so autonomous robotics, and so on. And for each of those 10 technologies, we then defined kind of to-dos or projects that we want to achieve in that specific year.
Oh, very good. That's a very important point. And then when you started, so you have a very interesting methodology with very structured with a yearly program. So, but when you really started and you experienced the first problems in the field, what were the disappointments? Because the title of this webinar is what AI can really do for you. So maybe you also had internally at FESTO some disappointments on how to implement AI.
Like most of the factories, we start in a. So the machines that we purchase, they are some of them are only 2 years old, some of them are 20 years old. So when we started with one of our newer machines, so I think it was from 2014, the machines that we started our first AI project. we still figured out that it was not built for advanced data analytics. Of course, there's a lot of data inside this machine, recipes on how to produce certain components, but the data was not structured in a way and not provided in a way that we could start with analytics right away. So the first disappointment was that we had in the very first project, I would say 80 to 90% of the project duration, we put effort only in organizing and validating the data. We even figured out the data was collected in the wrong way. So we had to make changes, reprogram the PLC, or at least certain parts of the data gathering. And this was a huge disappointment. So I think we spent 8 months only to make sure we get the data and that it's kind of correct.
Was it an objective, this 8 months? I think we have lost. Jakob, are you still with us?
I'm still with you, yeah.
Okay, I cannot see your camera anymore, so maybe there's a little bit of connectivity issues. Okay, so 8 months was not, I guess this is something which was not really forecasted. It came as a surprise, maybe in your project. Yeah, I can see you again.
Yeah, it was. So the first project, it was together with a research facility. We wanted to finish the project in 1 year, and it was all about more or less, today we would call it predictive quality.
Mm-hmm.
And this some results completely, we had results at the end and more or less a validation that AI helps us to improve our process, but we couldn't realize it in the live system because of poor data quality. That we took away from this to gather all data.
Okay, I'm afraid we have a little bit of connectivity issues, so there's a little bit of lag and it cuts a little bit, so I hope it will improve. Before we move to the next segment, I will share with you what the people think about what keeps you up at night. Actually, we have 1/3 of the people think that you are worried about the network of the 11 FESTO factories. So it was true, but it's no longer true because you switched your activity towards the customers. How to solve connectivity issues in the next project. So yeah, you mentioned the importance of connectivity, and also. There was a little bit of a trap because the question was, there was a suggestion of someone who was saying, find the machine with the largest amount of data. And actually, you just mentioned that this is really not the right way to go. Maybe you should not start with the machine with the largest amount of data, but more the machine with the biggest problems. And for the last question, 1/3 of the people think that what keeps you awake at night is what if Google has really reached AI consciousness? So we didn't really talk about that, but what do you think? What do you think about this announcement of AI being conscious at Google?
Yeah, so indeed, this is the questions that does not keep me awake at night. I'm more down to earth and try to fix the existing challenges on the shop floor, and this is not one of them at the moment. So more, maybe a little bit philosophical.
That's more
far away in my eyes.
Yeah. Very good. So, we have another question from the audience, from Denis. So thank you, Denis, for being active this way. So the question of Denis is, what is the most important expertise needed for successful implementation of AI-powered solutions in manufacturing. So do we need systems engineering, software engineering, data science, or just something else? So what is the most important expertise according to you?
A little bit of everything would be best, but I would say a deep understanding the process. So the machine process is probably most important to start with.
Machine process. Okay, so again,
there are a lot of very good data scientists and solutions out there. So it's not necessary that everyone becomes a data scientist himself or herself. So knowing the pain points in your production, know the important processes, the important machines, and also the costs that are more or less created in this process, may it be quality issues or maintenance issues. Knowing that is the most important, very first step.
Very good. That's organization and knowing your factory, actually. We have another question for the audience, and I would like to. Oh, I made a mistake. So yeah, it will not work. I'm afraid it will not work because I clicked too fast. So sorry about that. I wanted to know if the audience was thinking what was the image of FESTO. So we won't have this. We won't have this answer today. Sorry about that. So let's talk a little bit now about how you work with your external partners. So because FESTO is known as a company which is selling components for automation, and you have been providing software for these components for a long time. Now you are offering something really completely different, right?
It's not, but it's added. So we try to add an additional value proposition to our customers. We still create hardware products, of course. We are famous for our innovative industrial automation products, of course. And what we are doing now, and we are doing this now for 4 years, is, or even a little bit longer, that we offer additional value with software, with hardware independent software. And this covers a lot of different areas. So from the additional information and help during the developing process until maintenance, transparency for maintenance with our product Smartenance, which is kind of a typical maintenance manager, until very new products where we have AI on edge, so directly on the component, or AI software solutions, which can be used to analyze processes within a factory in regards of predictive quality, predictive energy, and predictive maintenance.
Okay, so what do you provide? Do you provide integration service, or what is exactly the offer?
There are a lot of, as I said, there are a lot of data scientists out there, and big companies like Google or Microsoft, they are also part of this community.
Right.
And what they cannot do as good as FESTO, that's at least what we are thinking and promising our customers, is the deep knowledge of automation and factory processes. Because as I explained earlier, just collecting all data, throwing AI on it and hoping the best is not enough. And it's very complicated as well. So we need to find the right process, find the right connectivity concept. And this requires a lot of domain knowledge. And
yeah, you've done it before for you, and you have you can build.
This is one USP that FESTO is offering.
And what is the level of AI readiness in the European factories? We mentioned that the factories were not designed or ready for AI. And what about the people? Do you find data scientists in every factory, or are we seeing the infancy of AI in production?
Sorry, can you repeat the first
Yeah,
part? It was a little bit.
it was about the AI readiness of the European factories. Do you find competencies in the factories where you go? Do you find data scientists? Do you find people who are savvy about AI already, or do you start from scratch?
Oh yeah, so there are all kind of levels of readiness that we'll find out. So some customers they have a very they are very focused. They know exactly what they need and what they want, and just ask for a solution. They also made the make or buy decision. So they decided not to make AI software solutions themselves, but to buy it. And then there are other customers out there who they are missing something and they need to do something with AI just because it's a buzzword and they are afraid they are missing something. They might have a strategic budget and using it for a project, but it's not very sustainable what they are doing. So they're all kind of readiness levels out there. And what we do, and this is also kind of USP for FESTO, together with our sister FESTO Didactic, we are trying to collect the customers where they are, or to gather them where they are, and to find a way on how AI can be useful for them wherever they are at the moment.
Yeah, FESTO Didactic is kind of a training program inside FESTO, which was created already a long time ago, right? Jakob, I'm afraid we have connectivity issues because I'm losing you from time to time.
I'm afraid, yeah.
I can hear you now. Yeah, you're coming back because I cannot see you. I cannot see your camera anymore, and sometimes your voice is vanishing away. So I'm afraid we have a little bit of connectivity issues. Okay, so what were, for example, some disappointments from your customers? Because again, big expectations on AI. You mentioned that there's a fear of missing out from your maybe your customers. They go in AI without really knowing why. So what are the disappointments sometimes that you have found with your customers?
So the hopes are very high, and if you have less experience, or if it's your first AI project, like it was for myself a few years ago, then you wish that you just install a software tool, and then after several days of maybe training a model, you get perfect recommendations on what to do, when to replace parts. Really just not the case. It's a lot more effort that you need to put in from both sides. So the customer has a lot of obligations. So you need to make sure to clarify with your IT, for instance, the data is collected, that it can be provided. You need to install maybe edge devices or virtual machines where the analyzing is done. And yeah, these are processes that take a while. And then it's not just that you can take any process. You need to identify the right process. where you really can achieve something, and sometimes you also recognize that maybe I have completely other problems at the moment that are not that cannot be solved with AI, but there you need organizational measurements on how to improve this. So there's a lot of things that AI can solve problems, and this sometimes is not seen at the beginning.
And sometimes you also discover that AI, some usual technology can also do the job, right?
Exactly, and that's why we don't we try to use the word AI not in every situation. So we are saying sometimes in simple algorithm or just condition monitoring with thresholds solves the problem satisfyingly. AI is not always the solution. It's and this is also kind of a competence that you need to acquire to identify whether a specific or what's the best method on how to solve a specific problem.
Yeah, that's why you were using this instead of a AI service by FESTO, you were more talking about industrial intelligence, right? Because this is just when FESTO enters into the fab, you're already providing a lot of insights on the organization, on the quality of the data and all these informations, right? So
exactly. So there are some points, and we have also developed a question here. So, sorry, to identify specific applications where AI can be useful. And there are some criteria that you can basically also check on your own. So to answer the question, am I ready so that AI can be useful for me? And this is the level of readiness with traditional methods. How good are they implemented? How stable is my machine running? Do I have topics where wear out, technical issues, or aging of components is causing troubles or change in behavior? And also the question whether this machine is so, because it's easy to identify a use case, but is it really a business case?
Right. So where would you recommend?
And to answer that question, you also need to answer yourself.
Yeah, so in fact, there's a lot of lag between you and me due to the
I'm afraid we have a delay.
Yeah, there's a lot of delay. So I will ask my questions and wait for your answer. So where would you recommend AI? Where do you see today the highest level of maturity of AI in manufacturing?
Yeah, I would recommend to use AI wherever technical problems create regular changes in the machine. When it comes to energy consumption, quality issues, or maintenance issues. And these technical problems, they can be because of wear out, aging, or also pollution of specific components. And the next question is if these errors or problems, if they are in a way that affects your factory, your processes within a factory, in a kind of significant way. So, and that's the economic perspective. Is it a problem that only occurs once a year? It with AI, but if it's a problem that occurs more regularly and also has a significant value in terms of maintenance costs or quality costs, then AI is the right tool to choose.
Okay, so that's interesting to consider within your fab the business case behind, because there's an investment and you define the AI strategy according to a business case. You look for the pain points and then the return on investment. That's a very interesting way to understand. In fact, I would compare your approach really like as if the factory is like multiple businesses and you want to have a business case for every usage of AI. That's really interesting. So I would like
Exactly,
to, yeah, go ahead.
I would recommend this to everyone, because if you just look for a use case, but without any economic value, will lose, and also your plant manager or whoever your boss is will lose interest in AI. And this is not due to a lack of readiness of the technology, but to a lack of choosing the right case.
All right, very interesting. So now let's talk about the usual suspects. We're going to talk about the cloud versus the edge. How do behave the large companies versus SMEs? I don't know if you're working with a lot of SMEs, but in our network in DRH², we are supporting mostly small businesses. Let's talk about connectivity. So let's talk first about cybersecurity. You mentioned it earlier. Today, we hear about hacking every day, ransomwares and this kind of things. So what is the usual approach of customers with regard to their data? And what would you recommend? And you just mentioned earlier that you are competing, for example, with Google or Amazon Web Service for AI implementation in the factories. I'm assuming that these big organizations want to offer a cloud-based solution. So what is the situation for right now? Do the people benefit from the large computation power of the cloud, or is it really not the culture?
So first of all, cybersecurity is a very important and crucial topic nowadays. So FESTO itself also has a lot of threats every day. I think it goes into the hundreds, as far as I know. But fortunately, we have a very good cybersecurity department. And the same situation, I think it's everywhere in the industry. So when it comes to AI projects where you need a lot of data, the first question is always where the system is installed. And of course, the cloud has a lot of advantages, especially when it comes to scalability and also the reusability of data. But we decided to implement all of our, we are able to provide our solution, FESTO AX, in the cloud as well, but so far no customer asked for it. Everyone wants to have it on-prem or on edge.
That's a very clear answer. The market answered, in fact.
Yeah.
Okay,
so we try to do all analytics, or we are doing all analytics on edge or on-prem, mostly because of the cybersecurity topic.
In the use case that you mentioned earlier, you mentioned a lot of cases where you focus on one machine, on a series of problems on one machine. Is it because today AI is not supervising the whole factory that we are not talking about the cloud?
I think even with so FESTO, for instance, has a private cloud. So we are using cloud technology, but it's not a public cloud. And with this private cloud, we are now able to monitor a lot of machines inside our own factories. So it's not just this one machine. We have multiple machines that we are monitoring, and we do this via virtual machine that is running on a private cloud. So it's an on-prem solution.
So cloud as a technology has some advantages, but That's more a question of business model related to the cloud exploitation. Very good. So we talked about machines, but is it always possible to have access to the data from one machine to another? Because today everyone is competing on this market of AI. Machine suppliers could also want to have a share of that, because we think of data is the new oil. So do you already found some difficulties to have access to the data from a machine, or is it accessible?
Yeah, so this all depends on the network architecture that you build up in your factory. For instance, in our own factories, we decided to have a micro segmentation. So every machine is in a separate network. And each machine has its own kind of firewall. And what we do if we want to connect two machines with another, or to get data from another, we have to make tiny holes in that firewall. And we do this hole as tiny as possible. So it's very specific routes that we create from one machine or one port to another. And this is typically the same case that I saw at many factories or customers. So they try to make the hole in the firewall as small as possible and as specific as possible.
Okay. And in terms of data management or AI adoption, do you see a difference between large companies and smaller businesses? I don't know if FESTO is dealing with SMEs, so do you have any insights here?
Yeah. So we have from the biggest companies to small regional factory or family-owned factories. I saw a lot of companies, and I cannot tell you that large companies are always better and smalls are always faster. It completely differs. So sometimes the smallest business, they know exactly what the problems are, and they already have data and they have fast. And on the other side, big companies sometimes have a little bit more professional IT. They can support you in a different way. They have clear processes. General the direction that I can now lead you into. It depends on each company.
So yeah, unfortunately, the network is a little bit weak, so we're going to switch off the cameras. It's more important to hear you. So yeah, sorry about that, but it's more important to hear you. So we have another question from the audience. Can you refer to a specific tool or a framework that helps to shape the project? Systems design, data models, schedule, or other essential element. For example, do you have, I don't know, it looks like a project management tool. So, and do you refer to a specific tool, or do you have your own internal tool?
So from an organizational perspective, right?
I guess so, yeah. That's how I understand the question.
Okay. So we try to do these projects as lean as possible, especially if you start with the first AI use case or business case, and only a few machines are connected and analyzed. The project management should not be a bureaucratic monster. So we use agile methods and, for instance, Scrum to project. and therefore we have some tools internally at FESTO which we use for project management, but there's nothing I can say it's the best tool for doing so. It's probably what you always already are used to.
Or maybe it's more so that's more for the organization standpoint, but if we look at the question under a more technical angle, are there any tools that can help to shape a project, an AI project? I mean, where maybe suggesting where you should have the computation done, the data stored, the networks.
Okay.
Do you have this kind of tools?
So when it comes to the gathering of data, especially if you want to scale it through the whole factory, there are a lot of very good tools that you can use to make AdWords for specific companies. But for instance, to connect the data from different systems, I thought always Denodo is a very nice tool. There's also Zimco for basic data gathering when it comes to condition monitoring data. And if it's about advanced analytics and you want to analyze high frequency data, then it's most likely necessary to get away from the centralized systems that are running maybe in a DM set in a virtual machine, but to decentralize the computing power to edge devices to the machine, directly to the machine. And then, for instance, our solution, FESTO AX, has everything inside that you need to connect the data, to gather the data, to route their way through the analytics pipeline. So from the pre-processing of the data to the analytics to the post-processing and then the dashboarding. And I think it's important to have a solution that is flexible in one hand and easy to use, that has pre-trained models, and all this we do with FESTO AX. But of course, there are different solutions outside there who do it as well. And then I would say the biggest question, or the most important question that you need to ask yourself is, who offers a solution, of course, which is nice to use, powerful, but also who offers you training, knowledge about the processes, and so that you can actually implement and scale AI in your factory with everything that belongs to it, like change management and so on.
Okay, so I still have 3 questions that we're going to answer quite fast, and we have also an additional question from the audience I'm going to take afterwards during the Q&A. So my next question is about connectivity. What are the technologies that you can recommend or find in factories?
Can you please repeat the question?
Yeah, about connectivity. What are the usual technology which are used in factories? Is it all wired? Is it wireless? Is it?
Yeah, it's wired, I mean, everyone is talking about OPC UA. To be honest, especially in brownfield factories, OPC UA is not something that you find in a lot of machines. So the most protocols that I saw when it comes to connect data, to create the connectivity, is S7 communication from Siemens PLCs, also TwinCAT maybe from Beckhoff PLCs, and in parts OPC UA or MQTT. But mainly it's the old not protocols that are widely spread through the PLC.
Yeah, indeed, OPC UA, we like it very much in DIH. This is what is used in Firewall. When it comes to software, do you develop proprietary algorithms, or do you rely on open source, or anything that you find good?
I mean, open source is a very important part of every software that is developed today. I think creating everything proprietary is impossible. Yes, we also use open source, for instance, for the front end, for the dashboarding. But at least in our solution, the use or the intellectual property are proprietary algorithms for the whole process of the analytics. So the whole pipeline from the pre-processing to the post-processing. And this is something that we did on our own.
Okay, okay, that's really the core of the whole system. Last technical question: do you see an evolution of where the computing is located? We talked about edge computing, but do you see also this computing going towards sensors?
Yes, so I definitely see this development from edge to the sensors, and I think it's very important that sensors, components, or subsystems inside the machine are offering data and pre-calculating the data. Nevertheless, I think that the advanced analytics, when it comes to the analytics of a whole machine or multiple components and subsystems, that this is something that cannot happen directly or that will not happen only on the component itself, but also in a higher instance, so on edge or near edge.
Very good. Okay, so thank you very much. So that's all my questions. Now I'm going to take one question from the audience. And for all the participants today, if you have additional questions, don't hesitate. And this question is from Laurent Marquis, who is asking about the business case. You mentioned that it's important to have a business case to make a decision on whether or not you should apply AI onto one particular use case. So which factors are the most important to calculate the business case at the end?
It's the knowledge about the significancy of the problems. So, for instance, so this is the first one, and the second one is that you're able to compare it, to make a comparison between the process before AI was applied and after AI was applied. This is the same for all kind of different optimization projects. So you need to make sure that you have KPIs that you measure in front of the change and after the change. And especially the KPIs in front of the change, they are often not available. And it's an important task of for instance, as me, as the project manager, to make sure that we have something, some KPIs that we can compare against.
That surprises me a bit. You said sometimes the KPI before are not available. So does it mean that we have a problem, but we don't measure it? I'm a little bit confused. I mean,
yeah, sometimes those KPIs are not measured, and that's why it's also for us, before we can actually start with applying AI or starting with the AI project, we need to do a lot of pre-work so that we have something that we compare, that we can compare our final results against. So for instance, the amount of errors in a specific time, the costs of maintenance before in the before state. And sometimes those KPIs are not available, and then we need to make sure that we get them together with the customer.
I understand. Okay, so thank you very much. I think we are reaching the end of this session. So thank you very much again, Jakob, for being with us today. So this is the last session of this series on manufacturing. We're going to start over in September. We have a number of projects that we're going to highlight. So we're going to have some sessions with startups in September, and we're going to talk a little bit about no-code solutions. So thank you very much, Jakob. So if we want to get in touch with you, how do we do? Because how do we do to collaborate with FESTO today?
So first of all, sorry for the poor connection. I would have loved to share my video with you as well. If you want to get in touch, feel free to contact us via email. We also have a nice website, festo.com/ax, where you will find all information to contact me and my colleagues.
And of course, you have all the contacts from Blue Morpho, and I will have the pleasure to connect you to Jakob. So thank you again, and I wish you all a very nice summer, and we'll see you again in September. Bye-bye, Jakob, and get well soon. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.